the claim that you're making is these were women-led societies,
Correct.
right? So you mean to tell me that there was a nation out there for over 1,000 years? Do I have the numbers right?
No, closer to 4,000 years.
Okay, 4,000 years, even more years, 4,000 years that was led by women.
Correct.
Got it. And how, now let's just speak about this logically, right? So the facts is that you're speaking about history. I still don't have a link. I couldn't find anything on it. So we don't even know what you're saying is true, but let's speak about it logically, because we can always get the truth with logic. You know what I'm saying? We can see, like, that's why when I do these debates, I don't even need to plan. You know what I'm saying? I was like, you hit the team up. I was like, let's do it. There's no planning, because we can literally speak about this logically and see if the logic adds up. So who's physically stronger, men or women? I want to see where your mind is.
Men are physically stronger than women.
Got it. So you would then conclude that men willed force. Men willed the enforcement mechanism.
In most cases, men are more capable and more equipped to handle physical altercations, if that's what you're asking, yeah.
Got it. Another question for you. If, say, a group of people get together and we create a law, which is it's a right, and we give a right to people, who's going to enforce that right, men or women?
Well, I would say that depends. Like, when are we talking about? Because if we're talking about the culture right now, what I want to put into perspective and highlight is that the culture that we're dealing with right now is an African diaspora culture that has been directly affected by something known as the Ma'afa. Have you heard of that?
Wait, real quick. We just using logic, brother.
Okay,
right?
Fair enough.
We just using logic.
All right.
So once again, if laws is created and a group of people get together and we give someone rights, who's going to enforce them rights?
In the current society that has been engineered where we are currently right now, men.
Men. Okay, now tell me how you can have a society even thousands of years ago, because we're using logic now. Even thousands of years ago, tell me how you can have a society with order, meaning that you give rights to people, human beings have rights, without it being enforced. If it's not enforced, another nation can come over and take those rights from you. Do you understand? So who's going to enforce those rights thousands of years ago, men or women?
If you looked at the historical record, what you'll notice is that not only one woman did that, but many women did that. Many queens did that throughout a very lengthy point in time. And there are records of that. So
okay, so many.
1 second, please. Please, 1 second, please.
I'll let you expound. Go ahead.
Thank you. So what I would suggest is that, once again, if you look at source literature like Chancellor Williams' Destruction of Black Civilization, Great Issues of Race from 45 BC to 2000 AD, you would learn that in pre-colonial Africa, in the same Nile Valley civilization, 4,100-mile stretch of the continent of Africa, the civilization and high culture thrived on what's known as chiefless states, where there wasn't a need for jail. There wasn't a need for police officers. Why? Because the elders, men and women, would uphold the law. They would hold counsel, and everyone was held in order because everyone knew the law. Everyone was a lawyer because everybody knew the law, let alone Queen Candace from the 3rd century before the Common Era, the great Sudanese Merode queen who stood on 2 elephants and dared Alexander the Greek to cross the southern border. And guess what he did? He didn't cross. So if you looked at the historical record, not only would you see that women not only have the capacity and the possibility to be able to lead a nation state through political matters, but they also picked up the sword, and they did so for hundreds of years.
Okay, Jaden, you're still given history. Walk through it logically. You said, let me just make sure I got it right. You said that, the culture thousands of years ago, everyone would know the laws and regulations, and everyone would follow these laws and regulations. So everyone was kind of policing one another. Did I kind of have that, right? What you mean?
I can rock with that. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So everyone was, because we're going to speak about this logically to see what you're stating makes sense. Because education is indoctrination currently, meaning that you can read books, but it indoctrinates you. You're not really thinking about things logically. So we're going to do that today to test it out. So what you said again, people police themselves. So it really didn't have to come to that, because this culture, people knew the stuff. And I would say the same thing. There's so many people that know not to speed. There's so many people that know not to run red lights. We know these rules and regulations. There's so many people know not to sell drugs, but people still break the rules. So you mean to tell me that human beings was entirely different thousands of years ago? No, human beings wasn't entirely different. We have these same immoral natures about us that we do now that we had thousands of years ago. So yeah, people would break the rules just like how they do now, just like how they did thousands of years ago. So the question is, if they break the rule thousands of years ago, who do you think is going to actually enforce the rights, enforce the rules to maintain and sustain a good nation, men or women?
Women. Would you, and now give me 30 seconds and I'll give you the second part of the answer, because what you just said was, give me 30 seconds. Listen, hear me out.
I got you, bro. Okay, go ahead. 30 seconds.
Because what you just gave back to me.
The question is how. Go ahead.
What you just gave back to me was the second and last part of what I said. That was building on what I initially said. And I do speak quickly, so maybe, I'll slow it down. And that's not an insult in any capacity. So what I said is that when you look at the historical record, and you look at the chronology of time, there are more than one instances when the call of action was called and when the bells were rung. Not only petty crimes, not only theft under 5,000, but when foreign nation states led by men came storming down the Nile Valley on numerous occasions. You're right, they did put the best person in charge, and they did task the best person for the job. But guess what? And then in the high culture of the Nile Valley, the best people were women. And when you look at history, Alexander the Greek tried to. One second, I'm giving you the names and dates. Alexander the Greek in the third. The Great. Alexander the Great in the 3rd century before the Common Era, 300 years before the birth of Christ, tried to invade Egypt's Kemet and the southern border. And guess what? The oracles from the prophets of Mami Wata, who ran the political system at the time, advised him, if you try to invade, you will lose. And guess what happened? When he ran up at the border, guess who he found? The Black African Queen Mother, the Meroitic Sudanese Queen Candace.
Pull this up for me. The history that I know, Alexander the Great General took over Egypt and Kemet. So what are you talking about? Like, that happened. It did not happen.
Okay, so what I'm suggesting is, it
was a different time that this occurred.
Okay. What I'm suggesting is, by the time the Greeks were able to successfully take over Egypt or Kemet, that was through the line of the Ptolemies, which came after the fact. That was after, and that was not done by force, mind you. That was done by psychological and spiritual warfare.
Okay, so real quick, are you saying that when Alexander the Great General actually took over Kemet, which is now named Egypt, he took it over at the time where it was men-led and not women-led?
No, actually, it's a very good question. What I can say is, at the time the Greeks were able to successfully take over Egypt, that was over 1,000 years after it shifted out of matriarchy and patriarchy. If that happened, that date, I would suggest and allege happened around the 17th century before the Common Era, 1,700 years before the birth of Christ, and that was a result.
Okay, let's just go to what my question. Are you suggesting, because you made a claim, you said, well, Alexander the Great, he wanted to invade Kemet, but there were strong She-Hulk women that was like, you're not coming over here. And he was like, God dang, you know what, women kings, we're not coming over here. We're going to wait until there's men and then take over. So my question is, when did Alexander the Great General, because I know his general actually took over Kemet, if my history is right, was it when it was a woman-led nation or a man-led nation?
From the year, I would suggest, and my best hypothesis is that at that point in time, the transition from matriarchy to patriarchy had already been undergone for hundreds of years.
So you're saying when Alexander the Great took over Kemet, which is now named Egypt, it was a men-led nation. But when he tried to before, it was a woman-led nation, and he couldn't. The math isn't mathing, because Alexander the Great, homie, died when he was like 25, I think, or like he didn't live that long. He was doing a whole lot of stuff and where he was real young. So hundreds of years didn't pass. His general did take over Kemet, man. What you talking about?
And as I just said, the gender you're talking about are the Ptolemies, and I already said that, but you're not hearing me, so I'll say it one last time.
Okay, got it. No, I understand what you said. So, okay, but you're still stating that he couldn't take it over because the women was too strong. That's pretty much what you're claiming. The women was too strong back then. The men were weaker. That's why the white colonizers took over Kemet and renamed it Egypt. Yeah, that doesn't seem accurate, my friend. But anyways, okay, cool. Let's have this discussion be logical again. Once again, you're talking about history, and you're saying that thousands of years ago, women was leading nations, meaning that men was subordinate to women. And I want you to, I'm just going to ask you some questions to see how it's even possible. Let me ask you a question. We're going to speak about the woman's nature first, right? Women currently today and women thousands of years ago, there's only two things. There's nature and there's nurture, right? So the nature is the biology, the natural proclivities and tendencies that men and women tend to have. And the nurture is the social constructs and the things and the societal norms, what we are nurtured into like and to accept and to not like. So when you're speaking about thousands of years ago and now, the nature is still the same in human beings. So I'm going to ask you a question about woman's nature. Do you think that most women, generally speaking, without any nurturing going on, their nature is to yearn for a man that can lead them?
I would say yes.
Okay. So you would say that, women kind of have a natural proclivity to find a man that can, lead them, right?
I would say yes.
Okay. And before a nation starts, a relationship starts. Am I correct?
Yep.
Okay. So with that being said, if a woman wants a man to lead, that means that the man would have to fall in place and be a leader, and the woman would have to follow his lead. Correct? If that's what she wants. If she wants that, in order for her to get it, the man must have to lead and she would have to follow his lead. Am I correct?
I would say in a lot, if not most cases, but definitely not all cases, because a healthy, successful...
Well, once again, let's go through the logic. Let's walk with me here, man. We're not going to confuse. Manipulation happens when you focus on the effects. It's not happening here. We're going to go to the root, the cause of things. Before a nation happens, you must have a relationship. Correct. So in a relationship between men and women, you said that, yes, women do want a man to lead. So if women get that man that can lead her, by default, she is following that man.
In many, if not most.
No. By default, she is following that man.
Yes.
That's what that means. Okay. Now let's expound on this a little bit more. So this is what she wants. And if she gets what she wants, normally when people stop getting what they want in a relationship, would you say that they grow resentment?
For the most part, yeah.
Okay. Got it. Women want a man that can lead. He leads. She follows his lead. If in any circumstance that comes, no matter what the circumstance is, if he can't lead, she will grow resentment for that man. So you mean to tell me that in order to create a nation, we need to have a good relationship. So you mean to tell me that this order of a relationship changes from a nation? How does that change if the woman wouldn't grow resentment by men? That means that if women are leading a nation, she's looking down at the men. She's growing resentment for those men. Therefore, it wouldn't even exist. So we're not even speaking about the physical aspect. We're speaking about the mental aspect, brother. This is what I want you to do, man. This education got you all confused. Education is indoctrination. It isn't true. We having a logical discussion and your logic doesn't even add up.
All right. Can I respond?
So tell me logically, forget the history. Forget the books you was reading. Let's speak about it logically. Tell me how a woman is going to lead a man and lead a nation if she want that man leading a relationship.
Perfect. Thanks for your question. Before I answer, I have like a multi-layered answer. So can I ask you, if you don't mind, would you be able to tell me what senses the humans have? What senses we have to perceive things around us?
Seeing, touching, hearing, tasting, and smelling is our five senses.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for your answer. I would argue and I would challenge you to remember that humans have intuition. Men and women have intuition. That's that ethereal sixth sense that, once again, the powers that be benefit from us not being aware of. So I really do apologize. Honestly, I've learned a lot from you, so I acknowledge you as an intellectual man. But the fact that you forgot intuition so hastily, I would ask you to just slow it down and let's think of it logically. Because here what? Men and women have a masculine and feminine side. We have a left side brain and a right side brain. We all have the masculine and feminine side. Now, I would suggest, I'm not even going to ask you, I would suggest that I think most people that are unbiased would also agree that women are naturally more intuitive than men. So yeah, I see men as the proton and I see women as the electron. And I see men, I think that if you look back, try not to go too back.
I would disagree with that claim though. So let me state my disagreement. Let's take this point by point.
No problem.
You said that women are naturally more intuitive. Intuition is the ability to understand something immediately without the need for any reasoning, for any conscious reasoning. So if women are more intuitive, this means that they wouldn't need a man for survival. This means that they can outsmart the bear, they can outsmart the lion, they can outsmart all of these things because they get this understanding immediately without any conscious reasoning, meaning that they would know the bear's, sleep patterns, so they know not to go in these areas. They would know where it's clean water at, so they know to go to those lakes. They would know things so they would be able to survive. We know that that isn't true because a woman needs a man to survive because men wield the physical aspect of things. So with that being said, when you're speaking about intuition, I have these debates with women on a panel all the time. I'll just ask you the question. If women are more intuitive, why do they initiate 70 to 80% of the divorces? Wouldn't they know that he's just not the man for them? If women are more intuitive, why do they terminate their unborn children? Wouldn't they know that, well, yeah, I don't really want a kid at this time. This isn't the right guy to really get into a relationship with. So maybe I should use protection, or maybe I shouldn't even, talk to this man. But no, their entire life is all from reactionary standpoints. It's not being proactive. I would say that men are more intuitive because men are more proactive. Women are more reactive to things. This is why they get a divorce, most of the men, because they didn't have the knowledge to know that he wasn't the right man. This is why they initiate all the termination of unborn children, because they didn't have the knowledge that, okay, maybe this wasn't the right time to bring a kid in the world with this man. So no, women are not more intuitive because everything that women do is from a reactionary standpoint. The things that men do is from a proactive standpoint. So that claim that women are more intuitive is false, my brother. Prove me wrong if not.
Okay, so I'll respond to what you just said, and then I'll finish what I was saying. And once again, I'll always I'll always try to keep it concise. So what I would say today is that I want to remind you, I'm going to keep going back to the basics of the foundation. We have to remember that we are currently in 2024, and at a point in time in history where hundreds of years have been spent, hundreds of billions of dollars have been spent internationally to ensure that the type of social engineering that's occurred is specifically the type that has it where the woman demonizes the man, is specifically the type where woman undervalues herself and sex is seen as frivolous. So I'm not really, I understand right now what's happening currently in this month, this day, this year. It's not a good representation of what I'm talking about. But what we have to understand is this is one moment in time, but for a long, long duration of time, much longer, this wasn't the case. We have to understand that through the weaponization of food, through the weaponization of music, through the weaponization of culture, through the weaponization of academic history and dogma, through the weaponization of theology, what we have now is women who don't know themselves. And I know that as a historian, I always have to go back, and every temple, what was etched on the top, know thyself. So because we don't know ourselves, we're able to be told who we are. But we can't. You can't continue to look at what we're only dealing with now and saying women can't, because there was a point in time, once again, historically, when women were and now that point's closed. Now intuition. I'm going to finish what I was saying. So real quick,
if I have it right, you're saying that women was nurtured out of being intuitive, meaning that their nature is naturally intuitive, meaning that they have intuition. They use their intuition naturally. But with all of these, that's what you're saying. You said with music, with culture, with society currently right now, they've been nurtured, meaning socially programmed, nurtured out of their natural norms to be intuitive. Do I have that correct?
I believe so, but just to say it as a base statement, the weaponization of all the facets of what culture and society is now in this Western Hemisphere has pretty much destroyed what a woman in her most powerful self is. So to continue and close off on intuition, what it appears that I saw you do is Google some kind of a definition of intuition and read off of Google. I want to remind you, there's something called censorship, which I believe you're aware of. If you Google right now, so say I just told you the Sphinx is...
Give me your definition of intuition.
Can I give you an example?
For sure.
Okay. Actually, I think I can give you a definition and an example. So my definition of intuition is the ability to have to be very in tune with the matters and aspects of reality that can't be seen in the quantum realm. Things, you understand, we're in the third dimension. A lot of things that happen that we can't see.
How is what you just said different from the Google definition?
Read your definition if you don't mind again, please.
Because once again, man, we're gonna have a logical discussion about this. Got it. So I'm gonna go ahead and read the definition: the ability to understand something immediately without the need for conscious reasoning.
I agree with about 95% of that definition, but I don't find the necessity to insert the word immediately. That's like who's to say it has to be done immediately? That's not for us to say. And as an example, just to finish off on intuition.
Wait. So here's the thing, like, this doesn't make sense, right? If you need time, in time, we could gain knowledge. That's what that is. It takes time to gain knowledge. In time, we can look at the pros and cons and deductive problem solve and distinguish the differences and similarities. In time, it takes us time to do that. And then we can discern, meaning to make good judgment, the right path to make. So if it isn't immediately, it isn't intuition.
Can I respond?
Because if it's not immediately, it's the same thing as any human beings can do. My nigga, I got a little time. I knew this chick wasn't for me. Got a little time, man. I knew she was a whore. Little time, yeah, I got to stop hanging out with them boys. They smoke too much. I didn't know before, but in time, I knew more. So time is knowledge. Intuition is without time. It's immediately.
So the reason why I'm not eager to jump on this word immediately, because I'm not sure if you mean like within a fraction of a second. And what I'm suggesting is, considering the fact, like, what I'm trying to suggest is whether it's a fraction of a second or 40 seconds or 5 minutes, it doesn't change the fact that for hundreds of years we're born and raised, and I believe if you speak unbiasedly and honestly, I believe we're born and raised understanding what it means to have women's intuition, mother's intuition. There are commercials.
I think that we were lied to for many years that mother intuition and women intuition is a thing. I don't believe those things. No, any logical right mind person, we don't believe these things, right? So intuition, how I think of it, in order to know something immediately, normally human beings are a product of their experiences. So what I experienced in life, I gain knowledge from. What are memories for? Memories is for a lot of things, but one of the main things is to extract out lessons learned. So when I experience stuff, I extract out lessons learned, and then if I'm a wise person, I'll embody those things. And since I am embodying certain things, the more things I experience, I'll know things immediately based off of my experience. Like, oh no, I've been through this before. Oh, this person said that before. No, it means this. It doesn't mean that. Let me go ahead and walk straight. Let me go this way because that way is bad. So from experience, you know things immediately. And generally speaking, women don't have more experience than men. So
in what capacity?
And just overall in life capacity. I mean, men work the harder jobs. Men have a natural proclivity to gain more experience because women like experienced men. So we go out there and try to conquer the world because one, we have a natural propensity to compete, but then also we know the byproduct of our experience and accomplishments, women find that attractive, which will get more chicks. So we are actually incentivized to have experience. Women are not, because men aren't attracted to experience like women are. Women are there to be more modest, be more pure and stuff like that. So that's inexperience. The more experience, you're not pure. The less experience, you're more pure. So I would say, generally speaking, women don't really seek experience like that. What they do seek is finding a man that can give them experiences.
Okay.
So if you like that clip and you want to watch more, click right here. But if you want to watch the full episode, click right here.